For Oklahoma fans, the 2019 wide receiver class will always be seen as a huge what if. The headliner of the class was Jadon Haselwood, who is one of the top wide receiver recruits of all time, but he unfortunately didn't have a great career at Oklahoma and has since transferred to Arkansas. The second guy was Trajan Bridges, who was also a 5-star recruit and unfortunately struggled to stay out of trouble. The third guy is Theo Wease Jr. By some recruiting sites, he was actually the top receiver in the class of 2019, but Wease has probably been the most successful of the three, but unfortunately didn't have the kind of career he was expected to have at Oklahoma. In today's video, we're going to focus on him. We're going to go through his 5-star story, talk about what has gone wrong at Oklahoma, and if he can save his career at his next destination. This is now the third video I've made in the last couple of days about a 5-star prospect who's transferring to a new school, and if you want me to cover someone next, be sure to let me know down below. Subscribe if you love this kind of video or college football content, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now, let's get started and talk about what went wrong for Theo Wease Jr. In order to understand what went wrong for Wease, we first need to go back in time. Unfortunately, this was a very difficult video to make, as there weren't a ton of articles about his story, and the few there were mostly behind paywalls. But, going back in time, Wease was born in the Lone Star State, and eventually became a freshman at Allen High School in Texas, which is a powerhouse program. He was always seen as the next big thing, and clearly showed so much potential as a freshman that he was offered by multiple schools, including the Oklahoma Sooners. He said, quote, "I got my first offer my freshman year, and it was a blessing, and going on visits was a lot of fun. I would highly recommend every kid go make the visits to make sure they're making the right choice, and I'm not going anywhere else." This was later said about his commitment. Early on, Wease would make his college decision his sophomore year, choosing Oklahoma over Ole Miss and Texas. Wease committed during the same day he attended junior camp in Norman, and he was scheduled to attend Texas's junior day the following week, and attended a camp at Ole Miss a few weeks prior. A few months later, though, he would decommit in the spring of 2017. He'd decommit in the spring, and blew up into a 5-star recruit. He was one of the top players in the state of Texas, and as a senior, he had 57 catches for 879 yards and 14 touchdowns, leading Allen, Texas to a state title. He'd go back to the drawing board when it came to recruiting, and would drop a final 7 of Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, TCU, UCLA, and USC. He was considering all the options on the table, but would later decide to reaffirm his commitment to Oklahoma. He said, quote, "It was just the family-like feel with the coaching staff, and it was the perfect fit for me." He said that Oklahoma felt like home, and he was seen as one of the top playmakers in the class of 2019. When his childhood dream of playing college football was going to be achieved, he said, quote, "It's an honor. I've been waiting for this day since the first time I committed. I always dreamed about signing that white paper." What did scouts have to say? One said, quote, "He is a receiver who excels at 50-50 balls, yet isn't too tall and lanky to make defenders miss. His route running abilities can screw defenders into the ground as well, but overall, he's a good prospect." He'd also joined 2 other players, including 5-star receiver Jadon Haselwood and 5-star receiver Trajan Bridges. In fact, with Bridges, they actually played on the same youth basketball team in the Dallas area, so the two did know each other. This was going to be an extremely loaded wide receiver class for Lincoln Riley, and Wease got a chance to work out with Spencer Rattler in the offseason, so hopefully, those two are going to be a good connection down the road. According to 24/7 Sports, Wease was a 5-star recruit, the number 3 receiver, and the 21st best player in the class of 2019. So, how would he end up doing in Norman? Going into his freshman season, he was going to be a part of that super hyped up class with Haselwood and Bridges, and how would he end up doing? Well, unlike the other two, he would see the field a decent amount, as he had 2 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown in his freshman debut, and also had 2 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown against Baylor. He ended up playing in 13 total games, and only missed their matchup with Texas. Oklahoma got to the college football playoff, where they got blown out by LSU, but he managed to catch a pass in that game, bringing his season total to 8 catches for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a decent start for his career, and with CeeDee Lamb heading off to the NFL, he was going to get an opportunity to have a more extensive role. Unfortunately though for him, in 2020, Marvin Mims sort of took over the role he was supposed to have. Wease became the second or third option on the team, but still had a decent year. 4 weeks into the season with Spencer Rattler as the quarterback, he had 8 catches for 52 yards, and their 4 overtime thriller over number 22 Texas, had 5 catches for over 100 yards on the road against Texas Tech, and then had 2 touchdowns in a home victory over number 14 Oklahoma State. He had a couple of decent performances during the season, and then would finish the regular season with 66 yards and a touchdown against Baylor. Oklahoma, despite losing early, ended up getting back to the Big 12 championship, where they defeated number 6 Iowa State. He ended up starting 11 games and finished with 37 catches for 530 yards and 4 touchdowns. He definitely improved upon his freshman year, but 2021 was supposed to be his big season. How would that end up going? Well, he got hurt. He missed the majority of the season due to injury, and he did in fact miss quite an interesting one. For a while, we saw Spencer Rattler as the starting quarterback, but the offense really stalled with him under center, and Caleb Williams eventually came in and sparked the offense. They ended up losing to Oklahoma State, so they would not have the ability to make the college football playoff, but Wease would have to watch it all from the sidelines. Then came the big one, the coaching change. On November 29th of 2021, he decided to enter the transfer portal. Quickly though, he found his best opportunity was to stay with the Sooners, so he withdrew from the portal and recommitted to OU on December 17. At the time, Jeff Lebby was the Ole Miss Rebels offensive coordinator, and that is who Wease wanted to play for, but with him getting hired back to Oklahoma, this made it a no-brainer for Wease to come back too. Wease was excited for the 2022 season, and now he had a new quarterback to work alongside with. UCF transfer quarterback Dylan Gabriel would come in, and Wease said, quote, "When I met him, about 2 minutes into the conversation is when he started X's and O's, and that's when I knew where his mindset was." He said he definitely felt like he had something to prove in 2022, but not to anybody else. He knew what his potential was, and he was going to go out there and prove it. Sadly, the 2022 season did not go as planned for Oklahoma or Wease. In year one under Coach Venables, Dylan Gabriel was somewhat underwhelming, and so was Wease. He finished the season with 19 catches for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had a score against Nebraska, Kansas State, number 19 Kansas, and Texas Tech, with his only real big game coming against Texas Tech. I can't really find much of a reason why Theo Wease didn't play a whole lot last year, and if he had some sort of injury or there was some sort of other reason, please let me know down below. But either way, it was time for him to pack his bags and find a new school to go to for his last couple years of eligibility. When you go back to his recruiting days, he signed his letter of intent with EJ Ndoma-Ogar. To most people, that name is completely irrelevant, but to Mizzou fans and Oklahoma fans, they know exactly who this guy is. He went to the same high school as Wease, and he transferred to Mizzou a year earlier. Because of this, and the opportunity to play, and I guess his overall vibe of Mizzou, he decided to make it official and transfer to the Tigers. Mizzou had lost their best receiver Dominic Levitt to Georgia, and with sophomore Luther Burden returning, it looked like Wease could be a 1-2 punch and would have an opportunity to save his career at an SEC school with new offensive coordinator Kirby Moore. Wease will now transfer to the Tigers, and if you know anything about me, I'm a big Mizzou fan, so I'm super pumped about his potential there. I've been hearing about Wease for the last 4 or 5 years, and at times he showed brilliance at Oklahoma. I think this year, Mizzou's passing attack is going to be a lot better, as Drinkwitz is no longer calling the plays, and Kirby Moore, the offensive coordinator from Fresno State, will now have those same duties here. The Tigers also improved the quarterback position, as Sam Horn will return for his redshirt freshman season. Miami transfer Jake Garcia came in, and they signed 4-star recruit Jabari Johnson. They'll also bring back Brady Cook, who was last year's starter, and there should be a good battle between those 4, and overall, there should be room for Wease to have a good season, to put up big numbers, and get back to his NFL potential that he once had. I'm really excited for this transfer, and to this point, I wouldn't say Wease is a bust, more so a little bit underwhelming. It's not like he's been awful, or it's not like he's done anything stupid, and I'm definitely rooting for him, and can't wait to see what he's going to do for Mizzou this fall. But what do you guys think? If you're a Mizzou or Oklahoma fan, what do you think of Theo Wease Jr., who's another 5-star player I could take a look at in my next video? And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about what happened to Trajan Bridges. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.